Have you ever stopped to wonder why the very same car, with the exact engine and identical components, requires 0W-20 oil in the United States, but recommends 5W-30 or even 10W-30 in Europe or Asia? At first glance, this seems like an irrelevant technical variation, just a manual detail. However, this small numerical difference on the lubricant bottles can be the watershed between an engine that lasts decades and one that becomes a multi-thousand-dollar liability in rebuilds and premature wear, all depending on where you accelerate and what you pour into the crankcase. In the world of mechanics, opinions are divided. Some experts swear it all comes down to strict fuel economy laws and environmental targets. Others argue that the deciding factor is local climate, the advanced chemistry of modern oils, or secrets in the internal design of blocks. But the naked truth is much more complex. We are talking about a delicate balance between engineering compromises, aggressive corporate strategies, and government emissions policies. By the end of this analysis, you will understand why this oil identity crisis exists and whether using 0W-20 in your vehicle is truly ensuring protection or if it is, silently, shortening your engine's lifespan. Let's dissect this issue with the eye of an engine builder and not a dealership marketing brochure. Imagine the confusing reality of a Toyota Camry with a 2.5 four-cylinder engine. If you open the owner's manual in the US, you will read that using synthetic 0W-20 is mandatory and non-negotiable. However, if you cross the ocean and look at the manual for the same 2ARFE engine in Japan, Australia, or on European soil, the recommendation jumps to 5W-30 or even 10W-30. The scenario repeats with Honda's 1.5 turbo engine. In North America, 0W-20 is requested. In the UK, the standard is 5W-30. Same turbos, same bearings, same cooling systems. Why this discrepancy? Is it the asphalt, the climate, or something much more political and invisible? The easy answer that it's because of the cold doesn't hold up. If true, Miami and Finland would have opposite recommendations, and that's not what happens. The real reason is anchored in emissions laws and fleet efficiency tests, far above long-term mechanical health. We now enter the corporate backstage, where CAFE standards, corporate average fuel economy, dictate the rules. In the United States, automakers live under overwhelming pressure to meet consumption targets per mile driven. If a brand's fleet doesn't reach these goals, it faces astronomical fines, reaching millions of dollars for every fraction of a mile below the target. To squeeze out every drop of efficiency, engineers must reduce internal engine friction to the maximum. This is where ultra-thin oils, like 0W-20, come in. They offer less resistance to the movement of parts, which translates into a 0.5% to 1% improvement in fuel economy during official tests. For the government, this is an environmental victory. For the automaker, it's a saving on fines. But for the engine, there is a price. Thinner oil means a more fragile protective film. Under extreme temperatures or heavy loads, this lubricant can suffer what is called shearing faster than a 5W-30, leaving piston rings and bearings vulnerable to metal-to-metal contact. While markets like the Japanese, JDM, prioritize absolute durability, the American market is often forced to prioritize bureaucratic paperwork and consumption targets. To understand the danger, we need to master what these numbers mean. In the 0W-20 code, the 0W indicates fluidity in freezing temperatures. The W stands for winter. The lower the number, the faster the oil circulates at the moment of a cold start, which is excellent for avoiding initial wear. Meanwhile, 20 is the operating viscosity, meaning the thickness of the oil when the engine is hot. Comparing it to a 5W-30, the latter is slightly denser at startup but is about 50% more viscous at high temperatures. This creates a much more robust oil film to protect the engine on long highway trips, mountain climbs, or severe use. Basically, 0W-20 focuses on fuel economy, while 5W-30 focuses on thermal stability and mechanical longevity. There is the argument of engineering tolerances. Modern engines are built with microscopic clearances, designed to work with maximum fluidity. This allows them to reach ideal temperature faster and reduce internal drag. However, there is a detail many ignore. Engines are not static. As miles go by, these clearances increase due to natural wear. A 10-year-old car that left the factory perfect with 0W-20 might start knocking or consuming oil, benefiting immensely from a switch to 5W-30 to compensate for that extra space between parts. As the veterans of the Bob is the oil guy forum say, the engine grows and wears out, and the oil choice should evolve with it. The great American myth is believing that 0W-20 is necessary because the country is cold. In reality, states like Arizona and Texas face summers far more brutal than Germany or Japan. In a traffic jam under the scorching sun, oil temperature can easily exceed 240 degrees Fahrenheit. Independent laboratory tests, such as those from Blackstone Laboratories, reveal that many 0W-20 oils lose up to 15% of their viscosity after 4,500 miles under intense heat, while 5W-30 remains stable for much longer. This is why in extreme heat regions, like the Middle East and Southeast Asia, Toyota and Nissan quietly recommend thicker oil for the same engines that use the thin stuff in the US. Heat is the true enemy of lubrication. And what about the warranty? Many owners panic, thinking that changing the oil grade will void factory coverage. In the US, the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act protects the consumer. The automaker can only deny a repair if it categorically proves that the alteration caused the failure. If you use a high-quality synthetic 5W-30 that meets API-SP or ILSAC GF6 standards, you are technically within the protection specifications. Many manuals even include an escape clause stating that 5W-30 can be used if 0W-20 is unavailable, a veiled admission that the mechanics perfectly accept the higher viscosity. Beyond viscosity, the additive package is crucial. Two 5W-30 oils can be worlds apart. One might have a simple mineral base and another might be a premium synthetic loaded with zinc, phosphorus, ZDDP, and esters that cling to metal surfaces. Tribology experts, like Lake Speed Jr., reinforce that the quality of the formulation often outweighs the importance of the number on the label. A high-performance 0W-20 can protect better than a cheap 5W-30. The secret is understanding that 0W doesn't define how hot your engine can get, but rather how cold it can start. This is one of the biggest confusions in the automotive world, believing that the W in the oil serves to measure resistance to summer heat. In fact, this is a simplification that borders on error. The viscosity index followed by the letter W refers strictly to the lubricant's behavior at the moment of a cold start, and not how it protects components when the engine reaches its full operating temperature. To illustrate, a 0W-20 and a 5W-20 oil behave exactly the same way when they reach 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Both act like a 20-grade oil. The only real divergence appears when thermometers mark temperatures below zero. Unless you are facing the harsh winters of Alaska or the coldest southern regions, the benefits of a 0W rating are practically irrelevant to your daily life. On the other hand, the superior performance of a 5W-30 at high temperatures is what truly shields your engine during the heavy commute, in towing situations, or the intense wear of stop-and-go in large urban centers. In predominantly hot climates, such as Rio de Janeiro, the Northeast, or the Brazilian Midwest, migrating from 0W-20 to 5W-30 is not just a safe maneuver. It is a strategically smart decision for the longevity of your asset. And here enters a secret that dealerships and big brands prefer to keep under lock and key: what mechanics actually do in their own cars. When talking to independent technicians and veterans who spent decades inside Toyota, Subaru, and Honda workshops, we discovered a reality quite different from the manuals. Almost all confessed that, in their private vehicles, they ignore 0W-20 and opt for 5W-30 or even 5W-40, especially if they live in hot regions. One master mechanic revealed directly, "We put 0W-20 in customers' cars because it's what's recorded on the invoice and what the automaker requires by contract. But if the engine were mine, it would be 5W-30 without a shadow of a doubt, because it maintains stable viscosity for much longer." Another expert added that the fuel economy provided by ultra-thin oils is so insignificant in the driver's pocket that it doesn't justify the risk of accelerated wear on internal components. In other words, even the professionals who represent the brands prefer to quietly bypass the rules to ensure their engines last as long as possible. So, which oil should you choose for your vehicle? If your use is essentially urban with short trips, if you live in a cold climate and are strict with change intervals, 0W-20 will fulfill its role. However, if you face long distances, live under strong sun, carry weight, or if your engine has already crossed the 60,000-mile barrier, a 100% synthetic 5W-30 will offer an extra layer of security that thin oil simply cannot maintain. The central goal should never be to look for the thinnest oil there is, but rather the one that adapts to your driving reality. Always keep in mind that the same engine that requires 0W-20 in American manuals was designed, tested, and validated to run with total safety using 5W-30 anywhere else on the planet. You are not disrespecting technical standards. You are acting with the reasoning of an engineer who prioritizes durability over bureaucracy. If this content opened your eyes to your engine's health, don't forget to leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Understanding the truth about your car's lubricant is, undoubtedly, the cheapest insurance you can have to avoid headaches in the future.